Hello, my lovelies! This is Jenny from Jenny's Fun Facts. We just want to take a moment to thank you so much, P Eats Meal Preps, for sponsoring our episodes. New menu out every Friday, order by Sunday, delivered fresh by Tuesday. And guess what? They deliver to all Montreal surrounding areas as well. Healthy, fresh, and delivered to your door for free. Add them and our podcast on Instagram at p.eats_. P as in Peter, R-E, P as in Peter, S. Thanks, P Eats Meal Preps.
We are back to noon hour out of the box. Guys, we missed you. We've been on holiday for the last month. We are super excited to be back. This is episode, believe it or not, number 55. A huge thank you to Jenny DeHame, our producer who makes all this happen. And a huge thank you to all of you guys for your constant love and support. We missed all of you. We're so happy to be back. And of course, my incredible co-host, mentor, and good friend, Mr. Robert D'Alessio. How are you?
Esther, I am doing absolutely fine. And you know what? You came on this morning into the studio and you look so brilliant and dazzling. It is so contagious that I feel energized just with your presence. Imagine, let alone the energy that I brought in myself over here. You did it for me. It's the icing on the cake. I feel absolutely terrific. And the little vacation that we had, man, was that beneficial. We hope that all of you enjoyed your vacation. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Absolutely. And thank you to our TikTok family who are watching us live. You guys get to see behind the scenes. And, just join in if you want to. We will answer your questions as well. And to the audience out there, please do not hesitate to participate, ask questions, etc. We love to engage.
Hey, by the way, welcome Robert Massini, and he is our first viewer coming in from LinkedIn. We tried LinkedIn. It's maybe 2-3 weeks, and he's tuned in. Thank you for tuning in, Robert.
Thank you for joining us.
And hello to all of the TikTokers that are tuned in right now on Esther's feed. Thank you so much for joining us, Esther. Who do you got in there? Anyone in particular?
Well, I've got Kirk and Poopa and Head 2020, and I've got about 5 individuals right now who are tuning in, and there will be more coming in. They pop in, they pop out. So that is, we enjoy that. We enjoy having people hopping on and see what we do behind the scenes, and they get to see the screen.
You know what? Maybe our title wasn't appropriate today because, it says how addictions can ruin your life. But you know what? I'm addicted to noon hour out of the box. So that phrase would not be right in this case over here. Noon hour out of the box has not ruined my life. It's made it nothing but better, especially having you as a great co-host.
Oh, geez.
Our amazing producer behind the scenes who makes this all happen, Jenny DeHame.
Yes, thank you so much.
Esther, addictions are something very, very serious. There are many, many forms of addictions.
Yes.
And we can start with, let's say, addictions that are not necessarily beneficial. Let's start off. Okay, let's touch on gambling. Do you know anybody that it's got a gambling problem?
I do not personally know that. So we just have to backtrack a little and say there are 2 types of addiction. Then we'll go through that a little bit later. But just to clarify, there's the physical type of addictions and there's behavioral addictions. So some people just think addiction is just more the physical type where, you have substance abuse, alcoholism, etc. But there are many addictions that are behavioral in nature, i.e., eating, a cell phone, video games, and gambling. That is a huge one. Go ahead.
You know what? We're going to get back into gambling in one moment, but we were about to forget an amazing event that we attended last Sunday at the Scotiabank
Yes,
Theatre
yes.
in Montreal on St. Catherine Street. We had the honor of being present, of attending the screening, the private screening of Saving Chinatown, Our Heritage, Our Legend, a film shot by Jimmy Chan. And look at all those four wonderful people in this picture right now. If we start to my left, you got my amazing co-host, Esther. Then you got yours truly. And right beside me to my left is the restaurateur, actor, filmmaker, Jimmy Chan, who's done such a great job. Jimmy was telling us that the first time he did his Saving Chinatown, it took him 5 years to plan and shoot.
Yeah.
This second part, the second documentary, was an effort that took 7 months and went much quicker. And my understanding is that he's got follow-ups coming up to this documentary as well. But let us not forget, right beside Jimmy, to his left, well, that's our producer, Jenny Duhaime. She's a producer of not only Noon Hour Out of the Box, she's also a producer of Rob's Inner Circle and also producer of Pilot Bob. That's the show that's going to be coming on. We're putting clips here and there, but it's going to be like launched sometime in the fall.
Yes, cannot wait for that one.
So let's get back to gambling, Esther.
Yeah, so you knew someone personally who had a gambling addiction. Tell me what that was like as an outsider and what you saw occur in this person's life and how it affected their family, friends, etc.
So tragic because, this person, I'm not going to name any names over here, but this person
don't.
was under the impression that she was living the life. It got to a certain point that she was there like day and night and spending money. She would win, she would lose. And the most part, she was losing.
So she would go to the actual casino. This was not online gambling. This was
no. She actually went to the actual casino.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say where. They would actually pick her up in a limo, for crying out loud. In a limo, Esther.
Wow.
Open the door, the red carpet service. They would take her to the huge buffet at the casino, treated like a queen up until the moment that she had no more money. But then what happened is that she got into some trouble. All of a sudden, behind the mortgage payments, couldn't pay for the bills, utility bills, and next thing you know, she ended up losing the house. And she also ended up, because at the casino, there are these people called Shylocks.
Oh, what does that
And
mean?
they're there, oh my God, poor you, don't worry about it. We can help you. It's not a problem at all. How much you need? $10,000? No problem. He'll give you $10,000. Just make sure we get it back next week. Just give us back $12,000 next week. Spending that money, I'm going to make it back, because the person develops a sense of invincibility. It's like, I'm going to get it back. I'm going to win. I've won. I know what to do. I know the machine and all that. Spends all the $12,000. What happens the next week? Doesn't have the money. Now, doesn't have the money. And now, because this is not done legally, notarized, whatever, well, it's not $12,000 anymore. All of a sudden, you're up to maybe $14,000. So this person got into a lot of trouble, and ended up losing the house.
Oh, wow.
Caused problems in the marriage. And it's not only about the person's personal addiction. It's what that person brings with him or her, the people around them, the consequences. Well, like you lose your house, right? So what's the husband supposed to say? What are the kids supposed to say with that? Where are they going to go live? You got to get treated and all that. They both worked hard for many years building that, the heritage, building the life they had, the house, everything, their livelihood, and everything is just gone like within a few minutes. And that caused major problems in the marriage and all that. Anyways, all that to say, it didn't end up well. And gambling is a huge problem. And I know that some casinos are so nice. They offer you counseling. After you lost everything.
You're kidding me. I did not know that.
They offer you counseling. Come, oh, poor you. We'll make you see a psychologist. We'll take good care of you.
Wow. Jenny says, do you remember the Twilight Zone episode on gambling when the gambling machine came after the person affected, or was that Outer Limits? Good question. I don't remember that episode, but now I'm going to have to research that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Maybe a member of the audience knows. So if you know
Yeah.
the answer to that question, feel free. Esther, we have some slides to show, and
Yes.
I think it would be a great precursor, to engage in the conversation as we're going along. Because
Absolutely. Let's get into it and discover, the causes, the consequences, and some of the solutions.
Esther, let's get it on. So, what is the definition of addiction? An addiction is a chronic dysfunction of the brain system that involves reward, motivation, and memory. It's about the way your body craves a substance or behavior, especially if it causes a compulsive or obsessive pursuit of reward and lack of concern over consequences.
Yes, and someone experiencing an addiction will be unable to stay away from the substance or stop the addictive behavior, display a lack of self control, have an increased desire for the substance or behavior, dismiss how their behavior may be causing problems. It's true that they don't see it, even if it's obvious to everyone else around them, and they actually also lack an emotional response, which is so interesting.
Okay, over time, addictions can seriously interfere with your daily life. People experiencing addiction are also prone to cycles of relapse and remission. This means they may cycle between intense and mild use. Despite these cycles, addictions will typically worsen over time. They can lead to permanent health complications and serious consequences like bankruptcy, a bit like I was saying before.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we were saying earlier, there are two different types of major categories of addiction. There's behavioral and there's physical addictions. Now, physical addictions are the ones that are generally better known. That's what we usually associate addiction towards. Now, these are addictions to substance that are ingested or otherwise put into someone's body. Some common physical addictions include alcohol, tobacco, opioids, prescription drugs, cocaine, marijuana, amphetamines, hallucinogens, and etc. Physical addictions can generally be grouped into three different categories: illicit drugs, prescription drugs, and alcohol.
Behavioral addiction is classified as any time that one loses control over their actions in order to engage in behaviors that result in brief feelings of happiness. That person becomes dependent on the pleasurable feelings that come as a result of certain behaviors and begins to compulsively act on that behavior. Some common behavioral addictions include food addiction. Esther?
Hello. We both suffer from that. And I think it's an emotional thing. We both discovered that we are emotional eaters, but there isn't an addiction aspect to it. And it can get really, really difficult to live with those people who have an actual addiction to it.
Are we invited to that ceremony for the eating, what is it, eating disorder championships or rewards or awards night or something like that?
No, no, no. Unfortunately, we are not, though. We should at least be a guest. Um, but when we talk about food addiction, it's much more serious than what we discuss amongst ourselves, in that we find we're both emotional eaters. But people who are addicted, they literally will go and binge, where they will go and secretly buy a humongous amount of food, find a secret place to eat it, and eat as much as possible. So it's it's a lot different than just being an emotional eater.
Then you get the sex addiction. Well, you know what? If you take someone who's been single for a year and a half, and
I
all of
don't
a
think it's
sudden,
the same type of thing, but I know what you're saying.
exactly. So you get the drift.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
internet addiction, pornography addiction. Now, this is one thing I want to touch on, Esther.
Okay.
Look, I'm in a relationship right now, and I wasn't in a relationship before. I've been in a couple of relationships, not many. I'm the type of guy that likes to stay with that one woman type of thing. Pornography addiction, I have a problem with that. I find that this is me, and I'm probably going to get hit on for saying this and all that, but it's okay. It's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. It's our show, and you're allowed to disagree with us anyway. If you're in a relationship and you have a nurtured relationship, why would you want to go to the strip joint? Hey, honey, I won't be coming home for supper. I'm going with the boys at the strip club. Why? Why do you have to go see another woman's anatomy? Why?
I don't think that's the same thing as pornography addiction. I think we're talking about watching films, etc. It's not the same as, going with a bunch of friends and watching somebody undress. That's different. That's sort of
Well,
more
actually,
like entertainment. It's not the same as sitting down and watching porn films
well,
or
some of
or
the
engaging with someone online and having them do things for tokens and money. Or even, mind you, that's another type of addiction, but porn addiction is actually the viewing of pornography, watching people engage in sexual activity.
well, actually, there are some of these clubs a little less illicit that
Right.
they offer some services. So,
Well, yeah. I
so it
Then
goes
it's
along with the
not a
pornography.
strip club, then it becomes more of,
Well,
um
and then again, we can also go into the offshoot. We can say they also have these massage parlors. If you pay a little extra, you might get a little spoiled.
yeah, so that goes more towards sex addiction and not porn addiction again. So there is a difference between the porn and sex addiction. And I'm loving this subject at noon.
Hey, you know
Nothing
what?
like talking about this at lunchtime.
As this is beginning to sound so porny.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Using computers and or cell phones. Okay, folks. Go on to Esther's Breeze YouTube channel or Bobby Short's YouTube channel. Go on to the noon hour out of the box playlist. Esther and I have our signature episode. It's on cell phones. I
Yes,
mean,
cell
cell
phone
phone,
addiction.
you know, and I've seen a lot of cases where there's couples in restaurants and all that. And for God's sake, they're not even talking, they're texting to each other.
Yeah.
Among other things, texting other people, texts are coming in, social media, or what have you. Esther, where has the world gone? I mean,
Yeah, we check out episode 12. We kind of poke fun at it, but in fact, it is a serious type of addiction, and it's also goes hand in hand with social media addiction. And there's a fine line between being on social media and actually being addicted to it. There is, if you are an active participant, there is this phenomenon where if you get a lot of likes or engagement, it's sort of you get a dopamine rush and it makes you feel good, and it's very much the behavior that you see in an addict. So absolutely, that is falls in the category.
and then there's also the video game addiction. Okay, Esther, I want to touch on this video
Oh
game
yeah,
addiction.
touch ahead.
Uh,
Go ahead
my
and touch.
touch. I actually had COVID last year,
Right.
and I was home, and I started playing these games. I have an old Xbox, and I have an old game. It's called Grand Theft Auto. I started playing the game, okay, and I became addicted to it. But it goes farther than that, Esther. I'm sort of I got into my car. I had to go run some errands, buy some. I don't know. This is after COVID. It's during the COVID, the recovery and all that. I had to go get some fruits, vegetables, whatever. I'm driving the car. If I didn't talk to myself, if I wasn't smart enough, I would have been running over people with my car. Because in the video game, that's what I was doing. I was going crazy.
Hmm.
People are shooting at me and I'm shooting back. I go, hey, hey, whoa. I had to stop for a second and focus. This is real. This is not a video game. I can get into a real lot of trouble here if I'm not careful. So video games can become very addictive, but you also have to be careful not to bring the influence from a video game into your real life. And some of the shootings that happened in the US there, these kids or these people were playing video games that involved all this violence.
Yeah, there's been a lot of studies done on that, and that's very true. And I think it shows up now in the DSM-5, which is what the psychiatrists and psychologists use for diagnosing disorders. And a video game addiction is now included as a category because it's a problem, and it has huge psychological impact, especially on young kids, let's say from the age of 12 to 25. It's a problem, and it's an addiction.
And some parents actually use these video games as babysitters.
Yeah, there's that as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
That, that
and it entails a whole bunch of things, okay? Because you want to have your time on social media, whatever. In the evening, the kids are playing the video games. You're not really paying attention to what's coming out of these video games. It's like all of these things that are being ingested by your children that you're not actually supervising. And next thing you know, where did you learn all this? And you find out later through the video game. So it can entail a lot of doo doo.
absolutely.
And then after that, there's also the work addiction. Okay, Esther, let's touch a bit on the work addiction. I'll give you the honors to start off the conversation on the work addiction.
Well, if we're talking work addiction, that it goes hand in hand with that, for the phrase that we coin as, oh, I can't even think of it right now, but workaholics. Thank you. So
Right.
there's something funny about that term workaholics because it sounds like work addiction, but a lot of people admire people who have this sort of workaholic type of mentality. And so therefore they keep getting rewarded for this type of, work addiction attitude that they have. So it doesn't help, but in fact it does cause huge problems in the family, can cause huge problems with your own personal health. It is problematic. It is not a type of, addiction or, workaholicism that should be admired. It is in fact problematic and an addiction like any other. And I know many people fall into that category. And unfortunately, it has affected their health, has affected their family life, and it's an addiction like any other.
Well, there's also there could be some reasons motivating the work addiction. First of all, I'll give you an example. A person who has been for most of his or her life and living in poverty, hard times, all of a sudden, this person might meet someone and gets a stable life, and all of a sudden there's opportunity. And because this person lacked so much in his or her life before, now that person wants to start building up because of the insecurity. She wants to pile up money, or he wants to pile up money. And it also stems from that as well, because of the insecurity from the past. That person wants to say, well, listen, because I've had all this hard time before, I want to have some kind of a pot that I can rely on.
Well,
And
there's a difference between being hardworking and being a workaholic and being addicted to work. If you're a hard worker and you have a goal, but you have a balance in your life, like we had that work-life balance episode, then that's cool. That's good. But when it becomes everything and nothing else matters, and it affects your home life, and you don't even care anymore, and it's just your sole, raison d'être, your sole reason for living and being, then it's a huge problem. So regardless of the circumstances, whether you start off coming from a background of abundance, or whether you've had nothing growing up, addiction is addiction. Workaholism is still an addiction.
And I'd like to say hello to my good friend Daniel LeBlanc, who was a colleague of mine at the South Shore Transit System
Oh, hey,
for
how are you?
31 years. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Daniel, for tuning in. He tunes in from time to time. Great guy. Have great memories with him. He's a fantastic guy. Thanks, Dan, for tuning in. And please feel free to participate. In our discussion over here, you can say your comments, and that goes for everybody, even the TikTokers, Esther. How are we doing with TikTokers?
Hey, guys, please feel free to join in.
Okay, so let's continue over here. There's work addiction. There's also exercise addiction. Now, Esther, exercise is good. It's not a problem. But I can't stand these people who are addicted to selfieing themselves, putting these videos that they're at the gym, they're working out. Why? I even put up a post yesterday on social media, a personal post denouncing that. Why do you have to do that? What are you trying to prove? I can't stand people going to the gym and they have to show that they're working out, they got muscles and all that. Why? Why, Esther? Why do you think someone has to do something like that?
Okay, so now this is like many different, issues at once. So there is exercise addiction. Now, people exercising for health, that's a good thing. Exercise is a good thing and helps a lot of people. There are people who feel that not only that exercise helps them, keep in shape and be healthy, but they actually need it psychologically. They feel that the process of exercising, exertion, again, that there's sort of this dopamine, rush and other chemicals that are released when you're exercising, that they need that, and it helps them cope with life, and that exercise is part of their own sort of self treatment. I've known several people who have felt that way, that it's sort of like, oh, it's my natural Prozac. Oh, I need to exercise. So that is, one of the reasons that some people get kind of addicted to exercise. Also, it's very rewarding. Not only do you feel great after, but it starts having an effect on your appearance, and and that feels good as well. So you get addicted to that feeling of, you're looking good, you're feeling good. Now, then you combine that with how social media has evolved, and how for many years was all about the Instagram perfect picture. And so, taking selfies of yourself at the gym, showing that you're working out and how great you're looking, became kind of commonplace. Now, what happens is, so where is the addiction? Is it like a social media addiction and a cell phone addiction? Is it an exercise addiction? You're going to see a lot of people doing that at the gym. And I don't know if it's because it's an addiction, or they're, it's just part and parcel of, you know, their process of, working out, feeling good. And yeah, they like to let the whole world know, because that's a whole other issue. So it's an interesting phenomenon. And because I went to the gym for many years, 3 to 4 times a week, I saw that a lot. So yes, there is exercise addiction, and there's social media addiction, there's cell phone addiction, and it's all sort of intertwined, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate between the
and,
two.
and, and let us not forget, now that we're going to be getting into the topic of drugs and all that, there's also the steroids in some cases that come into the
Yeah,
picture
there's
as
that
well.
as well. But that's, when if they're, competing, and there's a lot of that as well. And maybe that comes under the name of, other brands, but in fact, when you look in the ingredients, in fact, that's exactly what it is. And if they're competing and everybody else is taking it, well, they feel they're going to fall behind, so they end up taking it themselves. So there's that. That's another issue. I don't think it's an addiction to steroids, but it's an addiction to being, bulked up, and and also striving to, win in all the competitions that come with that.
So let's carry on, my wayward daughter.
Oh, okay.
There's also spiritual obsession, not to be confused with religious devotion. Okay,
Right.
so we're talking here. This could be yoga, it could be meditating, it could be like deep awareness, what have you. Do you know anybody who's like really, really involved in this, and it's like such an obsession that it's taking control of his or her life?
That's interesting. So I know of a family where the mother became extremely religious for a short period of time, and it got to the point that she would go to church like every night, and she would pray often, and the family had to do an intervention because it interfered with her daily life, with their daily life. And in a sense, it was almost kind of like an addiction, that like, it's hard to say. I know people who, I don't know people, but I've read of instances where people who have obsessive compulsive disorder use religion as part of their rituals. And so is that an obsession? I'm not sure, but religion is the focus of their rituals, of their compulsions. And therefore it's like an addiction. Like, they have to say, 3 prayers before they go out, because otherwise something bad will happen. And so it's all sort of interrelated and convoluted, and nothing is like so clear cut. And all these addictions that are behavioral, the physical ones, that they're pretty clear cut. And a lot of people self-medicate, by the way, and don't even know that they're self-medicating. So people with ADHD who go untreated, well, they end up being the ones who maybe like to drink, or maybe like to, do illicit drugs because it makes them feel better, or makes them feel more normal, or people who have anger issues. They'll seek out alcohol because it calms them down, but in fact, it ends up turning out that it gets them even more angry afterwards. So all these addictions are complicated because none of them are clear cut, and some of them, are comorbid, where you'll have sex addiction and alcoholism, or you'll have, you'll be addicted to prescription drugs and also be a sex addict. I mean, it's all very intertwined, convoluted, and not so clear cut.
So let's carry on, my wayward daughter.
Oh, yes.
And another one, this is very interesting, seeking pain. Now, Esther, you have more of an understanding of this than I do, because off air, before we came on the show, we were having a discussion and you elaborated. I like very much what you brought into the elaboration. I don't like exactly what the persons are doing to themselves, but you elaborated in such a way that it was very interesting to listen to. So, Esther, what do you got to say about people seeking self-pain?
So the only pain seeking that I'm aware of that is quite common, especially in young women, is when they cut themselves. And the actual, and they'll take a razor blade and they'll just cut here, and they'll do cuts on their legs and cuts and the act of cutting, the feeling of the pain is kind of a release for them. So if they're feeling very emotional, they're feeling very anxious, cutting is a release. And so I do know of someone who had that issue. There are lots of therapy, therapies that can help that type of issue. Is it an addiction? Perhaps it is. I never knew that it was until I did the research, and they, pain seeking, again, some of that pain seeking sometimes could be intertwined with sex addiction, where people who are into S&M, sadomasochism, and they like to be, mistreated, hurt. And so is that, again, it's like convoluted. It's like, okay, so feeling hurt in addition to, it's also a sex addiction of sorts. So that exists as well. But cutting is a huge issue, and it's predominantly in females, and predominantly, mid-teens to mid-20s.
Well, I know of a little girl back in the day, like many years ago, that she had she was what? Maybe she was under 10 years old. And something happened is that at one point her mother walked into the room and she had her scissors, kid scissors. It's like, it's not a very sharp edge.
Yeah.
She caught her with the scissors, like cutting away at the wrist. She goes, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah. That's
And then
part and parcel of that.
And then that was like an alarm. But then the dad later discovered that this child was drawing very morbid images. The child had talent as an artist. Dark angels cutting themselves with the blood dripping out, with swords in their heart and all that. And if you see a child doing something like that, I think that is a huge alarm. You have to get that child checked out right away, because this child here actually was discovered that had some psychological problems. So, and the child admitted that, like you said, cutting herself actually brought her some kind of relief. As crazy as it sounds, even though it was painful, she had marks all over the place.
Yeah, it's just I understand what you're saying, and yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about here in terms of hurting yourself. So, what Jenny is saying, and this is true. So there is where spirituality can be a serious issue when we talk about flogging. There are certain religious orders that use infliction as a way of devotion and prayer for their sins. I remember seeing this film where there was a parade for, I don't know if it was the exact reason for the parade, if it was for a certain saint or a certain holiday, and they were flogging themselves. They were hurting themselves as they were walking, as they were
Ah,
marching. There was this chain, and so I've seen that. I've seen that in film only, but what Jenny is saying is correct. That sometimes it's part of certain religious sects that do that.
but I'm having a very difficult time understanding how, pain is painful, right? At the end of the day, how could a person, like I do everything to try to avoid pain. I'll take Tylenols, I'll take Robaxacet, but how can someone actually get a sense of a thrill experiencing pain? I don't know.
Everyone's different, Robert, and some people, need a lot of sensation to feel anything. There's some people have different levels of their sensory input. So some people need a lot of like heavy touching and scratching to actually feel, where someone else could just, you just touch them lightly and it's bothersome. If it's some people who are in the umbrella of autism, their sensory perception is different. So they sometimes need a lot of like heavy massaging and brushing because they feel differently. So there are many different reasons why some people like it. Yes, it was a Dan Brown film based on one of his novels. I won't say the order that uses this though. Okay, yeah. So that's probably the film that I was referring to. I remember just seeing it and being blown away. But yes, thank you, Jenny, for clarifying on what that was.
And Dan Brown is also the one who made the films of the Da Vinci Code with
Oh, really?
Tom Hanks was in one of them.
Yeah. Great book, great film. Love it. Absolutely love
Okay, they
that.
talk about the Illuminati. Now that is a
Yeah.
film that is like really okay.
Yeah, no, it was very, very well done.
Okay, so let's carry on, my wayward daughter.
I don't know why I'm a wayward daughter. Okay, go on.
Well, the song is "Carry On, My Wayward Son." We don't want to
okay.
get beeped or anything here. It's censored, or we're get into some copyright trouble because we're saying a phrase here.
I get it.
Okay, shopping addiction, Esther. This is something. Listen, I don't want to generalize, whatever. From the people I know, I've seen this a lot in women. So, what I've understood is that this is like an escape avenue. A person, well, we can say a person, but anyways, I said a woman, but it applies to everybody. A person who engages in a shopping addiction, there's something wrong with that person's life. Maybe that person is looking for fulfillment. Give you an example. I know of a woman that spent all her life having been told that she wasn't pretty, she wasn't good at anything. So she would actually go and buy these pretty dresses just to prove to herself that she was pretty. Esther, elaborate on that for me.
Well, we did a show actually on shopaholics and obsession with shopping. That there's a lot of reasons why some people get addicted to it, but basically it's very similar to any other type of behavioral addiction. There's a rush that they get for the actual purchase of whatever it is they're buying. So there's, so it's not just that, because, like you were saying, she was never felt pretty, so she brought pretty things. But there's an actual, again, physiological reaction to the purchase of goods that they get. And, even if you order online, it is the process of ordering. So this is like, it's twofold. So the process of ordering gives you a rush, and then receiving it gives you another rush. So there's, it's very, it's based originally in some psychological need, but what happens with the actual addiction is more physiological, where they're getting, it's like a little bit of a high, like, oh yeah, look at this, and then like they completely lose interest after. I mean, like a week later, they're ready to sell that item. They couldn't care less.
Well, that reminds me of someone I know. The person would order something.
Yeah.
The whole thing, shopping online on one of these big suppliers. It starts with an A, it ends with an N anyway.
Yeah. I like it too.
Yeah. And I'm a kind of a shopaholic myself, but in a controlled way on that site. And it's the whole thrill of going on and shopping and buying it. And from the moment it's ordered to the moment it has to come, it's that anxiety inside of you. Oh my God, it's coming. And when it comes, you open it. And a lot of times you just open it and leave it there and never use it.
Yeah.
Which is
There was a time in my life that I was very into that. I get it. I understand it, which is why we did do a show on it. And that's why I can say what I say, because I kind of know a little bit from personal experience. And, listen, during the last 2 years, there was a lot of that for a lot of people.
Yeah, and what happens? The thing is, there it's not being used and all that. Next thing you know, you paid out $100. Say, here, give me $10 for it. Or in a lot of cases, you either give it to someone after spending that money, or you, I don't know, throw it away because it's not being used.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's carry on the slide over here, Esther. This is great. We did shopping addiction. We did exercise. Okay, exercise.
We spoke about that. Yeah, we did speak about that, and the last one there being gambling.
The gambling, and we spoke about that one as well. So Esther, let's carry on to the next slide.
Yes. So now we're talking about addiction treatment. So according to American Addiction Center's Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, CBT is a valuable treatment tool because it can be used for many different types of addictions, including, but not limited to, food addiction, alcohol addiction, and prescription drug addiction. So that is good to know that cognitive behavioral therapy is a very effective way to handle it. Of course, there's, treatment centers that exist. There's group therapy. Some people find that very beneficial. And then there's many centers wherever you're located to, if you or someone is experiencing addiction, there is help out there. Whether it's through cognitive behavioral therapy with one-on-one with your therapist or a therapist, or it is, where you go to a treatment center, or, and being involved in some sort of group therapy like Alcoholics Anonymous is, I suppose, for a lot of people has been very successful, very beneficial. So there's a lot out there to help. It's just knowing and accepting that you need help, or, doing some sort of intervention for a family member or friend who needs that help. And sometimes it's very difficult, Robert, when you know somebody who is, let's say, an alcoholic and has drug addiction, and trying to, do some sort of intervention that could be extremely difficult for the family, difficult for the friends to approach it. I would suggest to probably speak to a professional before you do that type of intervention, because it could go sour. It could have a negative effect. It could even increase the addiction, where they just sort of shut everybody out and say, F you, and I'm just going to do what I want. So if you're going to do that with a professional background, advice, etc.
Esther.
Yes.
Oh my God. How can we possibly forget this?
You're tuned into Noon Hour Out of the Box.
I have no idea, Robert, how we could forget our station identification, so to speak. So, yeah, it's been a long time.
There's a banner here that's really, really interesting. Look at this. Young people aged 15 to 24 are more likely to experience mental illness and or substance use disorders than any other age group. That is, wow, that's amazing.
No, that's I could see where that could happen. And Robert, we didn't even touch on the fact that during all the lockdowns in the last 2 years, how that has all increased. So not of course we know that some psychological issues have definitely increased and came up a lot more because of loneliness, isolation, anxiety, etc. But with that, there has been an increase in addiction, whether it be, physical or behavioral. I think that we're all kind of going through a universal like trauma right now. We're kind of, we all have, post-traumatic stress disorder, and we're sort of coming out of it. But some people, when they were in the thick of it, sort of found themselves involved in addictive behavior, sometimes when they didn't even have it before, or where they sort of had it in a mild way and it just sort of increased. So this is, it's been a trying time, and there's definite increase in addictive behavior. And I think now that we're coming out of it, I think that a lot of families, a lot of friends now have to address what's happening with a family member, or even look within themselves and say, hey, yeah, look, I've been isolated for 2 years, and I realize that I have this addiction to X, Y, or Z. So yeah, we're coming out of this with trauma and some addiction and psychological issues.
And take a look at this banner over here. Between 3 and 6% of the general U.S. adult population is affected by hypersexual disorder. 87% of people with sex addiction come from dysfunctional family backgrounds.
So
Wow.
so 3 to 6% of the U.S. population have sex addiction, and of those people who have sex addiction, 87% of them actually have had issues in their family background, etc. Their childhood. So that's interesting. Hey, Michael Anchors, thank you for joining us.
Our good buddy from the UK, Michael. It's been a while. Thanks for tuning in. And this young man turned 18 not too long ago, I believe.
Wow, happy birthday to you.
Happy belated birthday. Actually, we did wish him a happy birthday not long ago.
Yeah, that's true. I do recall that. So yeah, once again.
Wow, time is really flying over here, if you'll pardon the pun, coming from Pilot Bob.
Right.
Look at this one here. Gambling addiction rates vary from 0.1% to 6%, and young adults are among the most susceptible. Up to 14% of college students report problem gambling. Wow, Esther, that is shocking.
That's an interesting statistic that I would never have realized, that in fact college students have an addiction to gambling. That's that struck me as very interesting, because like why gambling? Is it the rush of wins or lose? Is it because they're looking for an easy way to get money? It's probably the rush, once again, the actual rush you get from gambling, and you could do it from the comfort of your own home. I don't know about you, but my spam folder in my email is filled with online gambling. And and if I were more impulsive and younger, I might click, get 5 bonus spins, blah, blah. I mean, I get it all the time. So I could see how someone younger could sort of fall into that, because very luring.
Well, yes. I would think that the beginning of this gambling thing and all that, it sounds so innocent, right? It's when you get credit cards, especially students, right?
Right.
Credit cards, it's so easy. They got I'll pay it after and all that. So what happens? Well, gambling, they want to go into gambling. A lot of times, because of the gambling, what they want to do is probably, well, they don't have a source of income. They're not making all that much money. They want to better their life. There's a lot of forms of gambling. It could be online gambling, casino gambling, and even the lottery.
Yeah, I see lots of people every week. And I see some people who go to the dépanneur here in Quebec. That's what we call the 5 and dime convenience store. So they're buying 5, 6, 7 lotto tickets, different types, spending quite a bit of money on it weekly.
And because it's the fact that they're already quite heavily indebted, going to school and all that, they get bursaries as well.
Loans and bursaries. So bursaries, they don't have to pay back, but loans they do. And it's different in, Canada versus the US. We have different ways to, we a lot of it here in Canada is financed by the government. So we're fortunate in that way, but yes.
But what happens is that because you have that loan, then the loan, while you start gambling because you want to pay off the loan, it's a chain reaction, snowball effect.
It's definitely a snowball effect. So that probably could explain why we're seeing that in college students. That was really an interesting and curious statistic. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Great. And let's look at our last banner over here. Statistics show that nearly 18% of social media users experience addiction, and young single females are among the most likely to live this type of addiction. That is very, very interesting.
Yeah, that goes back to when we did that episode on cell phone addiction. Of course, that coincides with social media addiction. Um, if you look at the different platforms, especially Instagram, it's there's a higher population of women who are on there, and the average age is probably more 18 to 25, and it's all about how many likes, how many comments, how many people follow you. It's become important, like it's become digital currency, it's become huge, and some people get addicted to it. They need to check social media every few minutes. They have to check how many likes, how many followers, etc. And it gives, again, it's that physical reaction, that dopamine rush, with also knowing that the more followers you have, and the more likes and the more engagement, you almost sort of makes you like more important. So there's a reason why this digital currency thing now has become so important, and especially with younger females.
To go back, the feeling of cutting and
Oh
making
yeah, the
yourself feel
pain.
bad and all
Yeah,
that.
addiction to pain. Yeah.
I know this one woman in a relationship. I know the couple well.
Mhm.
She comes from a background of suffering and having a hard time. And this person is like in cotton right now. She's floating on cloud nine, spoiled, rotten. I see some of the arguments the couple has, and I'm looking at myself saying the most ridiculous things. I go, this woman is so blessed. She's got everything she has. It's a blessing. She went through some hard times. It's everything she ever asked for. And somehow, Esther, she finds a way to make something that's good to turn into bad. She finds a way to screw it up, to turn it into an argument. Things are too good, right? No, we can't keep it right. It has to turn sour. It turns into an argument. Nitpicking for the dumbest things. Esther, do you have an explanation? Because I'm out of thoughts on this. I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, that one's pretty complicated. On the surface, I would say that they are addicted to drama, addicted to the trauma that they've had in their life is all they know. So all they know is trauma, all they know is drama. It's almost like that's how they function. They don't know how to function when things are great, because it's not in their wheelhouse. It's something they've never experienced before. So there's that. Now there's other reasons for that. This person might have suffering from depression, and that depression is not because of what is occurring in their life. It's more of a chemical type of issue, where some people are depressed. Depression is not based on what's going on in your life. It's very much a psychological disorder, and many people suffer from depression, even though their lives seem to be perfect. So there's many different things here, but people who have had a lot of trauma in their life, they, like I said earlier, they don't know how to live a happy life in a way, because that's all they know. So you have to be understanding and compassionate and say, I know that you are so used to things going bad. I know that trauma is familiar, as trauma is almost your friend, but
Wow.
it doesn't have, you could actually be happy. Being happy is okay, and you're allowed to feel it. You deserve it. But it's a long process. This is something that they have to find within themselves. Sometimes therapy is, cognitive behavioral therapies, like we just discussed, is an amazing way to help that type of issue, where no matter what happens in their lives, they're still unhappy and waiting for, for lack of a better word, the shit to hit the fan. So I think that's what goes on in that case.
We'd like to welcome Perry Canestreri, who is a great supporter of both of this show over here, Noon Hour Out of the Box, and Rob's Inner Circle. Perry is an amazing singer. He's a tenor. You have to check him out on his Facebook page. He does lives occasionally. Tune in. He's very entertaining, a very good guy. And you can watch the full show of Penny Canestrari on Rob's Inner Circle in the playlist on Bobby's Short Shorts. Thanks again, Perry, for tuning in. And thank you to all of you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much.
I said we're just about around the corner for our closing comments over here. Let's take a quick peek at the TikTokers and see what they're up to.
Well, we have about 3 people here and just a lot of hey guys and hellos. And that's, like I said, a lot of people hop in and then hop out. I think that a lot of people now are, occupied doing other things at this time of the day. But yeah, a lot of them came in and out. So that's what's happening on TikTok.
Well, those 3 people who are tuned in right now are probably addicted to this show.
Yeah, that's right.
Esther, you know what? This has been so much fun. Wow, it's such a beautiful day, folks. Go outside, take advantage, go bathe in the sun. Summer is not here for a long time, not much longer. Just a month away, a month and a half away, we're into fall. So, folks, take advantage of this beautiful weather. You can watch this show once again after it is broadcast almost immediately on Bobby's Short Shorts YouTube channel, Esther's Breeze, on my personal Facebook page, also on my LinkedIn page as well. And any other pages here? Let's see. Yes, also on Twitter, you can watch the show as well.
Amazing.
Esther, thank you so much for
Thank you, Robert, and thank you all for tuning in. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Jenny, for being there, for making the show that much better. That's our producer. We'll be seeing you next week, same time, same place, same reason. In the meantime, God bless and see you soon.
Ciao for now.
Ciao.